What's going on, everybody? It's 86 degrees. It's late September. It's technically fall, but it's 86 degrees here on a beautiful weekend day. Like, to be honest, it's actually pretty nice. 86 degrees in Northern California in early fall is nice. It's nice. It's tolerable. I would prefer it to be in the 70s, but hey, when you live in California, you just kind of like roll with what you get, because you just never know. You never know what it might be from one day to the next. It could rain tomorrow. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's the same case for a lot of people. But we're out here on the Multistrada today, enjoying slug bug, enjoying some of our last miles on the bike. I have not had this bike for that long. I bought this bike in early March of this year, and we're coming up into early October, so that's like 7 months. It's one of the shortest spans that I've ever had of owning a motorcycle. When we had the KTM, which was the longest bike, I had that bike for 5 years, and I loved the heck out of that thing. But it was time for something new. And frankly, one of the things about the KTM that I wanted to get away from was, well, first of all, the riding position was just a little too lean forward. If you're a Sport Naked fan, you know that most Sport Nakeds are a little bit more tucked, like a sport bike. The KTM was less so, but still, I wanted something more comfortable, and so I went away from the KTM. I also wanted something closer to the ground, which is, again, when I bought this bike, I understood that the sacrifice that I was going to make as far as the seat height and having a bike where I would be able to go on longer trips, has a windshield, has handguards, heated grips, has all these amenities, right? But in the long run, this just wasn't the bike for me, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And again, because it's a Ducati, it holds its value very well. I'm going to get back just about what I paid for it, if not more. So it's great. I put some money into a top case on this bike. There were some parts that were cracked or whatever, like this handguard here on the right was cracked, so I bought that. That was like $30. I spent a little money here and there on this motorcycle, but really when I sell it, I'm probably going to get back what I paid for it. So that's a bonus, especially when you just kind of just started riding a bike. But really quickly today, I just wanted to give an owner's perspective on the Ducati Multistrada. Really, more importantly, what I wanted to do with this bike, because there are people who've had their Multistradas for years who would be able to give you a much better perspective. But for me, who's gone on a few longer rides, my perspective more so wants to come from a shorter rider. I'm 5'6" with about a 30-inch inseam, and a lot of people who are my height are hesitant to buy a bike that's this tall. Now, the seat height is just over 32 inches unladen. So when you get on the bike, I'm obviously at a tiptoe. It does feel a little tall, but it's not overwhelming. And the nice thing about this bike is that it doesn't weigh a ton. It is a heavier bike. It's over 500 pounds. But because it's tall, I can put the bike on my hip when I move it and really lean into it. So I don't ever feel like I'm gonna lose this bike when I'm moving it. And a lot of the times, even in a parking lot, when I'm moving the bike backwards or trying to get out of a tight spot, I can't do it while I'm standing on it because I'm just too far away from the ground. And so I have to get off and put the bike on my hip and roll it around, and that's fine. Honestly, it's not bad at all. It's just that I would prefer not to do that, especially for somebody like me who does most of his ridings from just here to there, going to rehearsal. I'm an actor, so when I go to rehearsal, I'll ride my motorcycle. And just on weekend rides or just going to the store. So like, I'm just taking these short jaunts, and I end up in a parking lot, and it's just a hassle. It's the same hassle that I had with the Eldorado, but the Eldorado was even worse because it was this 700-pound bike that no reverse, couldn't put it on my hip because it was too low. The Eldorado was just something that I love the way that bike looked. It was like my trophy bike. You've heard me call that probably if you watch the channel. It just wasn't a bike that I wanted to go out and ride. And when it boiled down to it, like when I just wanted to go ride, I was like, it would feel like a chore. I don't know if you've ever been in that position, but that's where it was with the Eldorado, and a little bit with this bike, but more so because this bike just doesn't fit my need. I was hoping to get out for more longer rides. I don't know if I've already said that in this video, but yeah, the hope was to get this bike and to go out on trips, get out on longer rides on the weekend, and it just wasn't in the cards, and I'm totally fine with that. But to give you a little perspective, the riding position here for a person my height, 5'6", 30-inch inseam, and my arm span's about 68, 69 inches. It's a very comfortable riding position. I'm upright, but I also feel like I can stand up on the pegs if I'm going and on a little bumpier road, or you don't want to take this bike too off-road too much, because lo and behold, I took this thing into some rocks and tipped it over.
Flashback.
Shit. Oh. But yeah, this bike is capable because it's got a lot of travel. If you've got road tires on it, you're just not going to have a whole lot of traction. But riding position is super comfortable. You get out on the highway, you've got this windshield that doesn't put too much buffeting, which I hate, and you've got these hand guards to protect from the wind and any rocks or debris that's going to kick up from cars in front of you. I feel protected. I feel safe when I'm riding on the freeway. It's not that I don't feel safe on my cruiser. It's just that I feel very safe on the Multistrada. And really on the freeway and on back roads and on when you're up at higher speeds and really enjoying a spirited ride, that's where this bike excels. I just don't get out on those kinds of rides as often as I would like to. So yeah, comfortability, riding position wise, this bike is top notch for somebody my size. I almost feel like, aside from not being able to touch the ground very well, this bike is kind of the perfect size for me. It's not really a lean forward, but it's not super straight up. It is a little bit of a reach, but never have I ever, and even with all these wind guards, have I felt like I'm tired in the wrists from riding this motorcycle. This display here is awesome. It's got some color in it, and then I've got my phone mount here, so I've got another I've got my navigation when I need it. It does have Bluetooth connectivity, but it's kind of, because it's 2015, the Bluetooth connectivity is kind of it's not spotty. But when I've tried to connect my phone, it will show my phone here, and it'll show like the song. And I've tried to control like volume, because I know that you can control some of the things with my hand controls, or my controls here on the handlebars, but it's finicky, and I think it's because the tech in my phone has just advanced beyond the tech or the Bluetooth on the motorcycle. So it has that, but it's depending on how old your phone is and what kind of updates your phone has been through, it's probably going to be finicky. Now, I can't speak to you Google Android users. You might have a better time with your phone and its connection to the motorcycle, but in my experience with Apple iPhone, it's not great. Same thing, I think that if you were hooked up through intercoms with your passenger, you'll see rider. This R here is rider and P is passenger. The intercom system can go through the bike as well, so that's not something I try, because I hardly ever ride with a passenger, and I hardly ever use and I don't have an intercom system anymore. Used to use the Sena. Now I use the Shockwave, and anytime I ever need to communicate, I just communicate through phone. Even if I'm riding with somebody who has another Shockwave in their helmet, we just call each other and then have our connection that way. But yeah, another thing is that this bike has a passenger seat. My top case has a pad for the passenger to lean on, and that was something that my wife, she said, this is probably the most comfortable I've ever been on one of your motorcycles. The power can be linear if you're not putting the bike into like sport mode and using all the horsepower and torque that the bike has. So it's a comfortable ride for passengers. They're also sitting up higher, so you're not going to knock helmets all the time, which is something that annoys me probably more than it annoys my passenger. And so yeah, passenger comfortability, rider comfortability, because this bike is more of a straight up ride, the passenger doesn't feel like it did on my KTM, where it really felt like you're giving somebody a piggyback ride, where they're kind of leaning with their weight on you. we've got our display, which is great. Ride comfortability, riding position, great. But touching the ground, I've got 1 foot up here and then 1 foot on the ground. This is usually how I stop, especially in town. If I try to get both feet down, it's a really high tiptoe, and yeah, I don't know if you can tell, it's just not super stable, and I don't like that. So I usually just put 1 foot down. Like when you get out here on these old back roads that are just terrible, this is kind of where this bike excels. I don't really like taking my when I've had cruisers out here, because you know, you've got on a cruiser, you've got like 4 inches or less of travel, and there's the potholes and the imperfections in these roads. This is adventure bike slash tour, sport tour territory, as far as the type of travel you need to not be bottoming out and really feeling how crappy these roads are. It's funny because with the road that we're going to go on right now is one of those roads that I just could not stand taking my cruisers out on. But on the Ducati, it's definitely tolerable. I don't feel like I'm going to get a sore back after riding on these roads on the Ducati. I don't think this is going to read me. I think I'm just going to go. Yeah, I'm just going to go. Hate to do this, but it's not going to read me. Okay, you could probably see how bad this road is. But yeah, on the Multistrada with all this travel, that's what this bike was made for. If I really wanted to, I could lift up off my seat and get even more comfortable on here. But yeah, this is awful on the cruiser. Yeah, almost unbearable. So yeah, tech-wise, comfortability-wise, and really resale value-wise, there's not a whole lot to not like about this bike. Really, and going back to a cruiser and getting the R12, this was more about me and my need, and also feeling like there's going to be somebody out there who can enjoy the Multistrada for what it is and for what it's capable of doing. And I would much prefer this bike be out of my garage and in somebody else's garage. Could I have 2 motorcycles? Sure, I could have 2 bikes, but I've done that before. I've done it 2 other times, and when I have 2 bikes, one of the bikes just gets neglected. I don't even really know how guys who have like 3 or 4 bikes, I'm guessing it's because riding is their life. They ride all the time. They commute on their bike. Their pastime, the thing that they like to do when they're not commuting, is ride. Riding is their life. And so if they've got 2 or 3 bikes, I get that. But for me, having 2 bikes, one of them just never gets ridden. And also, I get into this not predicament, but I get into this thought process, or I get into this attitude. Where one bike is parked in front of the other, or so that I park them side by side in the garage, kind of angled in, so that we could also fit the car in there. And whichever bike is easier to get out is the one that gets ridden. And so when I had 2 bikes before, usually I would kind of cycle through. I would pull one bike out and put one out. The easier position, the one that's closest to the road, that one's the one that was going to get ridden, and I would cycle through that. So tell me in the comments, if you've got 2 bikes, 3 bikes, whatever it might be, how do you guys decide which bike to ride? I feel like, to me, that's just me being lazy, because I want to ride the bike that's the most accessible and easiest to pull out and go for a ride on. But yeah, that's just me. So yeah, I don't want 2 bikes, and I want somebody to own this motorcycle and ride the heck out of it. You know, this bike just had its Desmo service. It's got like 10,000 miles before it needs its next service. And so, you know, somebody's going to be able to ride this bike for 10,000 miles, not have to worry about dropping all that money on the Desmo service. Just had its oil change. I also have parts for it. So yeah, I'm excited to find the right owner for this bike. Hopefully this bike can go out to somebody who appreciates it. Again, from a short rider's perspective, this is a bike that if you are 5'6" with a 30-inch inseam or around that, you can ride this bike. If this is a bike that you want to ride, that you want to own, and you're thinking, can I do it? Yes, you can. it's gonna take there's a little bit of a learning curve, because especially if you haven't had a taller bike before, you've got to figure out how to handle it, how to move it around when you're not on it. In other words, getting off the bike and walking around. If you've already done that with a previous bike, this is just probably a heavier bike with more power and more torque, and you're just gonna have to get used to it. But believe me, if you've been especially if you've been riding for a while and you've ridden a lot of different kinds of motorcycles, this is just another bike. I think you can do it. So anyway, that's my perspective from owning the 2015 Ducati Multistrada 1200S. Again, I love how we went from these long named bikes, the Moto Guzzi Eldorado, the Ducati Multistrada 1200S, to almost probably they're easily the shortest name, because also, you know, the KTM has a short brand name, but the 1290 Super Duke R is not short. And we've gone from all of these bikes with these long dramatic names to probably definitely the most simple motorcycle name that I've ever had, and the BMW R12. And just a bunch of letters and numbers. Actually, yeah, I haven't posted too many videos on the R12 yet, but if you've got a good name for the BMW R12, make sure you leave it in the comments. I'll consider it. Oh shit. This light's not gonna read me. I'm just gonna go straight, and we're gonna turn left here. Anyway, if you got a name, right off the bat, because I'm a dad and I do cheesy dad jokes, immediately when my daughter asked me what kind of bike I got, I told her I call it R12 D12, because not only am I a dad who likes to tell dad jokes, I'm a giant nerd and I like Star Wars. And if you know what I mean by R12 D12, then yeah, you get it. All right, guys. This video has gone way longer than it had to, and way off course here at the end. But I appreciate you guys watching. If you enjoyed this video, found it helpful at all, make sure you hit that thumbs up down there, which is the like button. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Everybody, if you're out there riding, please be safe, be kind to one another. My name is Eric. I'm that one guy, and I am out.